I am so excited to talk to you today about figuring out our personal style, the cost of overconsumption, and how to be more intentional with crafting a wardrobe that feels good.
Getting dressed is not just getting dressed. It's how comfortable am I? How aware of my body am I? What am I even feeling right now?
I loved the trend of dopamine dressing and dressing for your own joy.
Are you representing who I am and who I want to be today?
Conni, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to talk to you today about figuring out our personal style, the cost of overconsumption, and how to be more intentional with crafting a wardrobe that feels good, because I've been in a wardrobe crisis. So I need you today.
I'm here to answer your questions.
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, no, I've been going through it. I think I've really changed a lot about who I am over the past few years, and my dressing hasn't caught up to that. And it's really been creeping up in terms of what to wear to important meetings or what to wear on dates. I'm going into a full crisis, FaceTiming my friends and having a borderline breakdown of I don't know who I am. I don't know how to express myself. I don't know how to show up. So this is a really, really timely conversation. And I think an interesting thing that I noticed is that I used to wear really loud and expressive things, and I had no good quality basics. And so I veered too much on everything I have has to be a statement.
Yes.
And then as I matured, I was no, I need beautiful basic staples, and I need to really get good quality ones. And then the pendulum swung too hard that way. And now I just feel everything is an Instagram, pleated pant with a neutral top, which also isn't me. So I would love to hear how you go about coaching someone to define their personal style and to figure all of that out. Asking for me.
Yeah. Okay. So for you, if let's say you became my client, the first thing that I would ask you to do, that I ask a lot of my clients, is tell me about you. Tell me who you are. If you had a best friend sitting next to you in a chair, how would they describe you in a handful of words? And how would you describe yourself? How did your parents used to describe you when you were younger? All of these words that we have kind of crafted around our personality and our identity takes center stage. So a lot of women who hire me have gone through a lot of these changes, and they don't feel like they recognize themselves anymore because they've been putting everybody else first. And so what I'm asking my clients to do is to put you first, by saying, who am I and what do I want? So I would say, for example, well, who are you? Tell me a little bit about you. And then I'll respond.
I would say I'm a creative, a storyteller, a traveler and a nature lover, a bit of a seeker. I like to go deep. I like to really connect with people. How's that?
When you give me that, in my mind, I start thinking of, okay, so who is Jillian when she tells me that she's this person? And in response to that, then I also will ask, well, do the pieces in your closet reflect all of those words that you just told me that you are? So if you're creative or you're deep seeking or you like to travel, you might have it, whether they're flowing or comfortable pieces that allow you to do these things. Or whether it's going to be if you are a creative person and you like to travel, that might mean that you have some unique pieces inside your wardrobe that represent this place and time or something interesting, something unique. I also am creative. I also love to travel. And so I want to make sure that I have pieces that are unique, that not everybody has. I don't want a Louboutin bag, nothing against a Louboutin bag, but I don't resonate with that. That doesn't speak to Conni at all. And it might not speak to you either. I want a bag that either I found on my travels or that has something interesting and makes people want to start a conversation with me. So when they see it, there's something that's interesting about it. And then you want to talk to me. It seems like it's approachable. And so when you start thinking about who you are, then my next question for you is what kind of life do you live? And you answered that a little bit when you said you like to travel. You are also a podcaster. You also have you work in a creative industry. And so all of that, then I have you list out your activities and actually think about, okay, so let's say you're going to travel. What is your ideal travel day outfit? And so you can respond to that if you know the answer. And if you don't, what I would say is going back to, okay, so if you want to be comfortable and you want to be creative when you're traveling, then maybe you want to wear like a flowy pair of easy, like pull on pants that feel like really comfortable, but with maybe like maybe there's a fitted top you're tucking in and like a stylish layering piece that you have, but it's in fabrics that make you feel comfortable and lived in. And so we're starting to paint a picture, which goes into your point of being a storyteller. So it's almost like we're trying to go back and start and write your story. What is it? Who are you? What do you like to wear? And then let's do the next step, which is we mood board, which is really a visual, fun, creative exercise to see like, well, where are all these ideas going? And what do they look like? And when we do that and put it all together, then we start to paint a picture of what Jillian wants to wear for date night and what you want to wear when you're traveling. And that's kind of where we start. So it all starts with you and having to answer some really kind of intimate, deep questions about yourself and your life, and then putting those visuals to connect them all together.
I love that. So we kind of have those like key descriptors, style words that we use to really like grasp our style. And then does that kind of lead us into those like 5 key elements of personal style?
Yes. So talking about your personality, which we listed, who are you? And then going into your preferences, what you like to wear, what makes you feel comfortable, and what you don't like to wear, what your lifestyle is like. So really listing out a handful of activities. What do you do from day to day? Do you meet up with people? Do you go into an office? Do you work for yourself? Are you a stay-at-home parent or not? Are you an animal parent? Like, what do you do? And what are the things that you kind of like to put on? What are maybe outfit formulas? And that's something as simple as, well, I like pants and a t-shirt, or I like dresses, or just kind of getting a feel for what it is you wear day to day. And then, yes, your environment most definitely comes into play when you're trying to figure out what to wear. But I say that in that just because you live in a place, it doesn't mean you have to wear the things that they live in the city or place that you live. And the example was like flip-flops. I live in San Diego, but I don't own a pair of flip-flops because they don't align with my own style vision for myself. They're a little too casual. And San Diego's totally a casual place, but I don't want to live that flip-flop lifestyle. I want to be a little bit more elevated. So it's just taking where you live into consideration. Toronto, obviously, very, very cold a lot of the year. And so what I would then do is make sure that I am bringing in layering pieces that make me feel stylish when it is cold. My focal point might be, okay, if I know I have to wear layers a lot of the year or boots a lot of the year, then I want to have a couple go-tos that make me feel really great during this time of year where it's a little bit harder to get dressed because it's cooler. So focuses shift based on where you live. And then once you know those basic 4 things, you know, your lifestyle, your preferences, where you're living, and your personality descriptors, you mood board. And then you can reach out to those influences to say, how do I want the influences to align with this vision I've created for myself? But what is happening, which is where we're getting lost, where we're starting to overconsume, is that we're taking the influences and putting those first instead of taking ourselves first and figuring out, what do I want and how do I want to apply those influences to me? What I mean by that is, you know, we're scrolling. I'm a scroller. You know, I'm on Instagram a lot. I'm seeing visual things happening all the time. And if I don't like force myself to shut it off, and specifically with content creating, if I'm watching other people create a lot of content, I get lost in what they're doing. I try to do what they're doing instead of doing what feels unique and natural to me. And that's what people are doing with their style. Is they're spending so much time seeing this vibe. They want the vibe. And then so they buy the vibe, but they try the vibe on. And it's like, oh, well, my body is not the same shape. My lifestyle is not the same. My words aren't the same. How come this isn't resonating with me? Well, we got to shift the focus back to who we are, what we want, and then reach out to see how those influencers fit in or influences fit in.
I love that. Yeah, that makes so much sense. I do find myself skipping to that last step. So that gives me like a good starting point of like
we all
why I'm falling into that pattern. Yeah. What's your recommendation for how much of your wardrobe should be like a classic basics versus trendy pops? I think that's a really hard balance, and one that I have, you know, as I said, yo-yoed on a lot. But if you want to be intentional about having a curated wardrobe and not over consuming, but still feeling up to date, what's that kind of like formula for finding that balance?
So I typically with clients don't tend to apply like numerical formulas for people because we're also different and unique, and needs to be taken into consideration. And so what I like to do is say, well, if your style descriptors are classic and you want to be classically modern, then you might have more basics than the person who is on trend is in, maybe they're in influencing, or maybe they're doing something where have to be in front of people a lot and they're on screen or they're doing something. So you take your personality into consideration and your life. And if that person is someone who is constantly on scene or photographing themselves or videoing, they might have a few trendy pieces more than the person who just wants to be minimal, neutral, classic. Someone who wants to create a travel capsule or a capsule wardrobe where it's just easy for things to mix and match. I am not one of those people who subscribes to travel or a capsule wardrobe because I am outgoing and I like to have unique pieces that represent who I am. Yeah. But in saying that, if I'm going to check out a trend, I'm usually like a watcher before I apply a trend to my wardrobe. Because what I ask myself is, and what I ask other clients to ask themselves is, how am I going to wear this at least 2 or 3 times for the lifestyle that I have? And if I can picture in my mind, oh, well, I have a bunch of jeans that crazy top could go with, or I'm going to a wedding and I want to wear this on date night, and I'm going on vacation, and so I can wear that thing for all those events. Okay, bring in the trend, wear it a bunch. Yeah. But when you do bring in a trend, my biggest takeaway is just wear the heck out of it. Wear it all the time. Put it in the rotation in your wardrobe, because the more you're wearing a trend, the more it makes sense for you to bring it in. But you're asking yourself almost these questions beforehand before you make the purchase, which is where the intentionality of something comes in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that a lot. And I think making sure that you are actually coming back to that like identity piece are aligned with the trend and not just doing it to a good example right now is like the Gen Z kind of like, I don't give a fuck, I just threw this on look. And like that doesn't really resonate with me because I do give a lot of fucks, and I'm not trying to project that I don't. But then I also see a lot of my like, peers and friends who are in our mid 30s and are like, but I want to feel young. I want to look young. Should I be wearing like all baggy everything and being like really chill? But that's not really who they are. So trying to find this balance of not feeling like out of date, but also not like abandoning yourself just to like keep up with what makes you feel young or cool.
Yep. And I think that there is, at any age, you can wear anything as long as you are comfortable in that thing that you're wearing. Because it's the comfort, like when you put something on and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so me. You feel confident, you feel comfortable, and that's where the vibes come from. And people want those vibes. And so it's like, okay, get back to, do the baggy jeans, do the baggy sweater. But if you're wearing them and you feel so uncomfortable, that is going to show immediately.
Yeah, that's true. I think there is like an energy to rocking something.
Yes, there totally is. And if you have that energy and you're like, yep, I'm going to do it. Or people who like, even as something as simple as, the sweater over the shoulders is a thing, right? Yeah. You just put your sweater casually over your shoulder because you want to look effortless. But some people are like, oh my God, I feel so uncomfortable doing that. Whereas me, I'm like, I'm going to do it, and I might fuss with it, but I still like it. Yeah. Then that's the difference. It's just having the confidence to be able to go and do it, or just owning that you don't like to do it. So I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And all those questions from the beginning, that makes it clear, like knowing yourself enough to know like, yes, this is for me. And you know what? This doesn't need to be for me.
Yes. And I think that's the biggest thing is like getting dressed is not just getting dressed. It's how comfortable am I? How aware of my body am I? What am I even feeling right now? Am I depressed? Am I happy? Is life, slapping me in the face, or am I ready to go out and tear it up in the world? All of that are emotions. It's so personal. And that all comes into play when you're putting a piece of clothing on your body. And we all want it to be effortless, but we're all dealing with emotional turmoil or emotional positivity at any given day, right? And
Yeah.
so we just have to be gracious with ourselves and know that also comes into play. And like, how important do you want the role of the clothes that you're putting on your body to play for you today? Maybe one day it's super important. Maybe the other day it's just, I don't really give a shit. And I just want to put something on and walk out the door without thinking about it. So I guess that what I'm trying to say is that it's just so personal. And sometimes we forget how personal that it can be and how emotional that it can affect us and be on us.
That's true. It is really emotional. And a lot of times, even though I think it's easy to dress for like perception and how you want to be seen, I loved the trend of like dopamine dressing and like dressing for your own joy. And I know for me, if I'm like not in a great mental health space, I can tell by how I'm dressing, how I'm hiding myself, how I'm just like wearing shit that I would never leave the house in because I'm not leaving the house. I'm rotting at home. And then as soon as you get ready and put on something that makes you feel good, it just shifts you into a different mood and a different energy and a different like way of putting yourself out there into the world. So it does really impact your confidence, and it reflects where you're at, whether you want it to or not. So it is a very emotional thing. Yeah.
It is. And a lot of what's been sticking to me that I share with my clients. So I call myself an educational stylist. And what I mean by that is I want to educate you on the why and the how so that you can go and empower yourself to be able to get dressed in the future, understanding why you're putting that on and how to put it on your body for that day. Because one of the things I've been hearing a lot that's been resonating with me is that if you want everything to be easy, you're never going to really learn long term. It's never going to stick with you for the long run. And what a lot of what we wanted, we're short on time. We need things to be easy. We want things fast and now. And my God, with Amazon, in the States, it's like we want things tomorrow. We need things yesterday. And because of all this quickness, it's just causing us to not sit and think intentionally. We're just being so quick about it. And that's never going to give you the personal style that you want, though. You're going to have to educate yourself and learn about the why and the how, because that's going to last long term. So you can continue to ask yourself, well, why am I bringing this in? How am I going to apply it to my current wardrobe so I wear it a ton? And that's what I'm trying to get more people to think about so that we're being more intentional with anything that we bring in. But it starts with you. It starts with educating yourself. Read a book, take a course, ask yourself why and how. And, I know we feel lost sometimes. I mean, you could literally probably just even go to Chat GPT and say, how do I find my personal style again?
Yeah.
What do I need to do that? I mean, I help clients with that all the time. But my point in saying this is that I think because we're becoming a society of quickness, we've forgotten that we have to really slow down to make things more intentional. And that's the goal of what I'm trying to get people to do, to refine and redefine their personal style.
That's a really good point. That fast fashion and like fast expectation of how we consume and buy and purchase, like all of it is leading to that cycle of overconsumption, which is kind of robbing us of our intentionality. So it's like a full speed cycle.
This idea just came to my mind to use as an example. Okay. So have you been wine tasting before?
I have.
Okay. So have I. Like I loved to go wine tasting, back in the day, and even a couple of years ago. Well, wine tasting, you think about it, right? The whole day, you're supposed to get 2 to 3 wineries in there. And then when you're going through the 6 different wines that they have to offer, I mean, you're just going through everything. Do you ever just is that the same, I guess, as having one good glass of wine? No, because the idea you're going wine tasting to try all the wines, to go to all the different wineries, and you're trying to get this whole experience in one small chunk of time. And so it's just a different experience than ordering one really great glass of wine and just enjoying that one really great glass of wine. And my point is that we're heading in the wine tasting direction instead of the one glass of wine direction. So we're all like, I just got to order and get it and do it. And because it's so fast, it's just such a different experience than just really appreciating the one thing really, really well.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. And there are so many ways that we can get that wine tasting experience if that's what you're after, like in terms of getting ready with your friends and like trading clothes for the night, trying on other people's things, like going thrifting. There's ways that we can be like, I just want to taste test a bunch of different things. But when we're going to like use our purchasing power and commit to something, We want to be like looking for the glass of wine that we actually really love.
Yes. And maybe to, to go back and answer an earlier question that you asked about just how, or not really a question, but you personally, how do you successfully set yourself up for the date night that you have and the weekend plans that you have with your friends? It is taking that time to think far enough ahead to almost like create an outfit plan for yourself to say, okay, I'm going on in the next month, I plan to go on a handful of date nights. So what outfits do I actually have to get myself ready for that? Can I repurpose a top and wear it a couple times so I only need, 3 tops? Or do I want a different top every single time? So if I want a different top every single time or different outfit, then I need to make sure I have at least 2 dresses, 2 tops, like 1 jumpsuit or something like that on hand. And so do I have those things in my closet? No, I don't. So that's where there's a gap. That's where there's a hole where something is missing, is I am not prepared for date night. So I need to figure out what that looks like. What do I like to wear? And then go shopping for those things ahead of time so that you're not waiting until the 11th hour and then feeling like you have nothing to wear and then ending up frustrated.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that pre-planning. And I'm curious for your advice on the difference. I really like the trend that's going around of like the difference between wearing and styling. And so if we do have a great collection of basics of like the go-tos that we know that we often wear, they answer all the questions we've asked earlier, but we haven't like stepped super far out of this kind of range of clothes we know we're comfortable with. So now how do we level up that base wardrobe to like maximize it and to really style it versus just wearing it?
Definitely. That's where it's almost like that style 2.0, right? Like you've identified, okay, I've got some great bases in there. And when I put them together, they feel a little bit flat. Okay, so that's where you're talking about bringing in accessories. That's where you're talking about bringing in texture or some sort of different fabric, doing a ribbed top versus doing a plain t-shirt, layering with necklaces, adding accessories wherever you like to have them, having an interesting bag or an interesting shoe. These are the ways in which you're going to kind of level up. And then it's almost like learning how to, again, play with your clothes. Are you folding something? Are you pushing it up? Are you tucking it in versus wearing it out? And have you paid attention to the fit or how you want it to fit? Like I love to talk to people about alterations, but that's, again, getting back to the basics. But it's more like, how do you play? The wearing versus styling is the wearing, and then do I play with my clothes after I put them on my body? And that's one of the things that comes with experience. It comes with just maybe you hire a stylist to help you learn how to do that. But it really is, it's almost like the same formula every time. You're like, okay, do I tuck or fold, cuff or tuck? Do I unbutton or button something? Do I add a third layering piece to it? Do I add some texture, color, or a pop of something? And those are the ways in which an outfit gets played with, which equals the styling versus just putting something on your body and walking out the door.
Yeah, it really opens up the versatility of something, because before maybe I would have like looked at a silk skirt and my big chunky sweaters and been like, no, they're too long, they're not flattering. But then looking up those hacks of like how to really style something instead of just wearing it, of like put around a belt, like wear a belt and then fold the sweater underneath to create more of like a waistline and to crop that sweater. Now all of a sudden I don't need to go buy a cropped sweater just to wear with this skirt. I can figure out how to style it differently. And there's all these like really interesting little hacks of like, if you love something, you can make it work in many different contexts, even though that's not exactly how it was designed, just by like a small little tweak.
Right. And that is the benefit to social media, if you look at it that way, as it from an influencer standpoint, is you can, once you have these pieces you feel good about, then you can go seek out the steps for elevating, for styling. What is it that they're doing every time? Oh, they're tucking or not tucking, or unbuttoning or not buttoning, unbuttoning one more button than you thought to unbutton, just to see how that feels. Putting on a belt versus not putting on a belt. When and where do you do that? There are no defined rules. It is, do I feel comfortable doing it, and don't I feel comfortable doing it? And then you can talk to somebody about sizing and things like that. Like, do I get a big belt versus a thinner belt, and that kind of thing. That's based on torso space. I mean, there's just rules that could go into stuff, but you take what you want, apply it if it feels enjoyable, And if it feels forced and uncomfortable, then you just let it go. Like, it's okay.
Yes.
Right.
Continuing down that road of like using what you have. I have so many clothes right now. And the past few times I have gone out on a date over the last few weeks, have opened up my wardrobe and my closet and my drawers and been like, I have nothing to wear, which is absurd because I have so many clothes because I'm not really good at getting rid of things. Well, we will circle back to that. But how do we start? That's a whole other thing. But how do we shop our own closet and breathe new life into pieces that we own, rather than, I think so many people are going through this like, holy shit, I have so much stuff and I don't want to wear any of it.
The basic makeup of your closet has to be pieces that they're functional and that you like them, right? I like to say that your clothing has to be like your friends. You are opening up your closet doors and you are excited to see them. You look forward to having a glass of wine with them. They make you feel like you're just the most important person in the room. And there is no reason why you should have clothes that talk shit to you. Like, why would you have friends like that?
Wow.
Okay.
True.
You shouldn't. You got to let them
right.
go. Because you can't have clothes that talk shit to you, because then no wonder why you feel like shit if you are putting stuff on you. And so that is where the editing comes in. And I know that it sounds super daunting to do this, but when we go through lifestyle shifts or lifestyle changes, and boy, COVID upended all of us, right? Like, we stopped wearing clothes for a lot longer. The way we have to go into work has changed because it's not the same as it used to be. And so then comfort became king. I want to be comfortable. That's the most important thing. And now we got to look at, okay, well, are my clothes making me feel that way? And if they're not, then we need to talk about why they're still in your closet.
Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't own sweatpants before COVID. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I can't stop wearing loungewear, but I'm not really like a loungewear gal. So like, what the fuck is going on?
Right. Yeah. So then what does it look like? What am I supposed to bring in? Because I don't want tight fitting pants or jeans anymore. So it's looking at, okay, first, so when you're addressing your clothes in your closet, it's like, are you representing who I am and who I want to be today? And you can just take it. This is how I do an edit. I don't do like a massive purge at one time. I mean, sometimes I do just for fun because it's what I do for a living and I love to do it. But I like to wear a piece of clothing for the day. And then if at the end of the day, I do not feel good about this thing, I was picking at it, it was making me sweat, I just was so uncomfortable, that piece of shit doesn't deserve to stay in my closet. Okay. Like that thing does not deserve to stay in there. I might give it another shot, but it's like being in a bad relationship where someone is just constantly nitpicking you all day long. And you're like feeling uncomfortable. You're afraid to get rid of it because there's no better options out there. I don't think so. You have to let it go, right? Yeah. You would just have to be like, I deserve better than this. I will let you go. I might be for a loss of clothing for a little bit of time, like out of a relationship for a little bit. But you are going to learn so much about what you do want by letting go of the clothes that you don't want, that it will actually be more beneficial for you in the long run.
That's good life advice, really. That applies to everything. That's good shit. That's really good.
Analogies. Your closet has to be the place that supports you because, again, it's part of your mental wellness. It's part of your self-help and self-care. All of that.
Your clothes have emotional baggage to them too, which is really something I've noticed. And I think like, I'm sure all women and men can relate to like holding on to things that do not fit them. And that like kind of toxic relationship of one day maybe, and then having this all of these clothes lorded over you that no longer fit your body. And I'm still doing that, and I know better, but I'm completely still doing that. So the emotional baggage of that, and of like,
I know,
pulling you back to maybe someone that you were but you aren't anymore. So it's like going through my closet is like going through memory lane of all of these people that I have been, and then deciding like, well, which parts do I want to hold on to and which parts am I ready to let go? But to be really like tangible with it, what would that process be if someone's ready to edit down their closet? So you have said that you would have them maybe like test drive for a day, something that they're not sure about, and then see how it made them feel. What would the steps be to really help someone purge or edit down?
All right. So if we are going through like the steps of an edit or the steps of purging or getting ready, like you are so ready, you are done, with the bad relationship. I like to start with bottoms because I feel like bottoms are the foundation, and you have to look at what you actually have. And so, yes, the most painful part is going through trying on most of these things. But I like to just immediately have a client create 2 quick piles. I don't wear and I wear. Just as simple as that. I'm wearing these and I'm not wearing them. Just divide it up into 2. And so the don't wears, those are the ones that you're really digging into, and you can create categories for them. I don't wear because I'm not fitting into them right now. I don't wear because they feel not me, they're outdated. I don't wear, I don't know why. I don't wear because my grandmother, my ex-boyfriend, my whatever gave this to me 7 years ago. There's all these different categories. And after you've gone through I don't wear and whys and put them into categories, you get to decide from that point, well, why am I keeping them? Do I want to keep them? And if I do, they need to be stored in a different place. This gets hard when you're small on space, but the whole point is that you open up your closet doors, that all those things are possibilities for tomorrow. And what's happening is we hang on to all these things that are all the different parts of our lives from the last, 2, 7, 10 years. And part of them are not part of your tomorrow wears because they don't fit, they don't feel good, someone gave them to you, all the things. You haven't weeded them out. So you have to you put them somewhere else, put them in a garment bag. If you are, like, I allow my clients to keep like a handful of hanger-oners, but they have to be stored in a different place in a garment bag that's labeled something fun or something kitschy, like I'll fuck with you later, or see you in 6 months, or right, just whatever. Because again, you want to make it fun. We all want to have fun with the pieces that we have. But for the pieces that are just not working right now, then you can check with them later. But they don't need to keep bombarding you about your weight, about your relationships, about your, anything related to your body right now. So just put them away, put them aside so you're not looking at them anymore.
That makes it so much less daunting because you don't have to immediately in one single session decide,
yes,
I'm getting rid of this and it's gone. Because that I think is what overwhelms me. So the idea that I just have to remove and section off things that I'm not really wearing right now and maybe dig into why. And then in a few months I can revisit and look at that pile and be very clear on I haven't missed them at all, have not reached for them. What is their purpose? That's really helpful for people that have trouble.
Here's another analogy for that, right? So when my husband and I moved to Toronto for a couple of years, I put a bunch of stuff in storage. And we were there for 2 years. When we moved back, the stuff was still in storage. I forgot half the stuff that was in the storage. And so when I went back and looked at the storage space, I was like, well, I don't even really need much of this stuff anyways, because I'm a new person. 2 years has passed. Now we're getting a different chair or a different light for the room. We live in a different space. And so we have to decorate it differently. And all of that stuff became irrelevant. And so it is almost like, you picture yourself moving. What do you really want to take with you? And what are you okay with leaving behind? And then, yes, like you said, you don't have to do anything right away. You can just store it for a little while until your mental health is a little bit more in the positive confidence zone. And then review them at a later date and be like, you know what? I didn't really need you enough. Because I think the biggest fear at the end of the day is I will be left with nothing to wear.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't wearing them anyways. They were just hanging on like an art photo on your wall, but you weren't actually physically doing anything with them anyways. And so it's just, for some reason, it's the comfort of knowing my closet is full that brings us some sense of, attachment that we have a hard time letting go of. When in reality, if you really did the editing process, you see what you actually wear, then you can get into the creative zone. And you're like, okay, I'm only left with these pieces. Now I can go to the wear, to the styling, and bring in the accessories and bring in the shoe that I needed, the bag that I wanted, and really jazz up these best pieces that are left. Those are my key pieces.
That's your starting lineup. So I love that.
Yes. You start looking at it a little bit differently. You're not left with nothing. You're left with your key core foundation pieces that you wear and you love. So let's get down to business and start really styling what you've got.
And are there exceptions for let's say you've really invested in like a beautiful piece that's a, you know, maybe an amazing brand or just like a splurge, but right now it either doesn't fit you perfectly, but there is a chance that it will, or it's a bit out of season or out of style right now, but it'll likely come back. But this is like such a great piece. Would that be an exception, or would you keep it for X amount of seasons and then return to it and know that like, we're just going to put that in that separate part? I don't look at every day, but I know that like when leopard print is back, like I can reach for that. Or when, you know, big like collars are back, like I've got that piece.
Definitely. There are always, even with me, there are pieces where I've gone through the editing process and I haven't worn. There's like a floral pant that I had, and then like a sequin striped skirt that I bought 7 years ago. I have not been wearing them in the last 7 years, but I'm still not ready to part with them. And so there's one of two things. Yes, they stay in a garment bag, and then the next year or 6 months or whatever, I look at it, maybe bring it out, maybe put it back in my closet for a little bit. If I still don't wear it, I might put it back because I'm still just not ready. But it's only a handful of pieces, so it's not the majority of what's in your closet. But the second thing that I was going to say, the other part of that is, this is where I turn to alterations for magic. Because if I love that piece and I want to wear it right now, but it doesn't fit right now, can I take it to an alterations person to see, can you let it out? Can you cut it down? Can you do something to it? Add something on the side so I can zip it up again? Is there a way in which we can play with this? That's where you want to make alterations like your friend. And you can find a good alterations person either by asking around, talking to a community group. We have something in the US, I'm not sure if in Canada they have Nextdoor, but it's like a neighborhood group where you can go in and type in like alterations in my neighborhood, and there's reviews that come up of certain alterations. So you can find it if you search for the community and go to that person and say, like, can we do something with this piece so I can wear it right now? And chances are, like, maybe I've even taken a long dress and cut it so that it's like a mini dress, or cut it into a shirt even, so that I still get to have this piece and wear it. But now it's a new me wear piece, not an old me wear piece. So that's the fun too. Again, it's all the fun, bringing the fun back into your wardrobe.
Yeah. Oh my God. I really think I've underused, and I'm excited for this next era of like tailoring and alterations, because when I was younger, it's like, okay, well, it either fits me or it doesn't. There's nothing more to it. And now being able to love a piece, but know I could love it more, or I could wear it more if I have it fit a bit better, or if that stain is covered with a cool patch, or if, you know, there's things we can do to really bring more life into our wardrobe, and also to like cut down on overconsumption, because we really are in an era of like, throw out the shoes rather than taking them to get mended, throw out the shirt rather than like just dyeing it a different color if it's a great shirt and it's still beautiful quality, but just the color's a bit off. Like, there's a lot we can do to salvage our clothes rather than just throwing shit out and consuming more.
Yes. So this starts too, which I was thinking about, it starts with the care and the story that you have with the clothing in the first place. So if, for example, we go into a fast fashion store and everything that we're getting is, you know, $20, $25, there's something, I'm not shaming that price point, but I'm just saying it comes with a different value add than something that's $200. 100%, we go into it way differently. We're going to want to think about, how do I care about this? I just spent $250 on something versus $20 on something. Whoa, like, what I want to do with that and how long I want to keep it and how it matters, the value of it to me is so different. And if we start, the way I like to look at if I'm going to buy a piece is, can I resell it if I decide I don't want it? Well, if I resell it, it has to be a brand that people know. It has to be a certain price point that people are going to rebuy. And we could all probably say that, no, if I went to Zara and bought something and tried to resell it, unless I have the tag still on it, it's probably not going to get rebought.
Yeah, but that's true.
If you go and buy a Veronica Beard blazer and you try to resell that, chances are people know the name Veronica Beard, appreciate the quality somewhat for what it is, and will or you can consign it someplace. Like, that's how I go in looking at, if I buy something, there's no guarantee you're going to 100% wear it a million times. But before I buy it, I want to make sure it has a resale value. So I know I'm getting something back for it before I invest in the purchase. That, at least for me, makes the purchase more meaningful. Yeah. And then also to have a story behind the brand. Where did they make it? Who made it? Who was involved in the making of the things? I do this specifically with shoes. It's important for me to like understand where the shoe was made, and that obviously comes with a little bit more of a higher price point. But if there is, back to the storytelling, stories are important to me too. Reading a book is important to me, and learning. When there is a story that's attached with the brand, you better believe I'm going to be repping that thing a lot because it's important to me and I care about it because I know the story behind it versus like, I don't know where H&M made their shirt, but I know they probably weren't paying their workers very well.
And that's like a next layer of self-expression, which is really beautiful. Like even, I mean, we'll get into this, but even like thrifting and like getting that find, that's such a great story versus like, oh, I ordered it off of H&M and it arrived 2 days later. And my favorite pieces I know are definitely like jewelry I've bought on my travels that had like a really cool story behind it, or like stuff from my grandma. Like I'm still wearing this epic sequined butterfly, almost like crop top that my grandma wore back in her day. And it's so cool. And every time I wear it, I just feel excited to talk about this shirt and like what it means to me. And the fact that like it's never gone out of style. It's such a cool piece.
That's another great qualifier is, would I pass this off to someone underneath me, whether it's a kid or it's a niece or nephew? You're a niece, right? Would she want it? Yeah. And that's kind of the thing about that's an investment piece. If you're like, yes, I think that I would want to gift this to somebody after I'm passed or when I'm done wearing this piece, and they would find it very unique and interesting and cool. And that's kind of the more intentional route, I would say, and way of thinking about bringing in a piece to your closet. And they don't, again, all have to be this like magical storytelling piece, but then they should be comfortable and make you feel confident, right? So then you've got a mixture of those two good pieces.
I have one more follow-up question on that I was just thinking about on how we organize our closets and how we edit them. I'm wondering if you have like a system you recommend for how to, once you've kind of like curated it down to the absolute winners, how do you organize it to optimize the wardrobe? So is it like by color or by occasion or by like matching things that could be paired into one outfit in sections? How do we figure that out?
So this also depends on how creative you can be with your clothes. So like some people have a little bit more of imagination and can see a piece and say, okay, yes, I can see that I can wear it with that, and that. I don't need it necessarily paired up together. There are other people who are so pragmatic and not visual that they cannot see the piece styled any other way than the one way that they're wearing it. So in those instances, I might pair up some outfit ideas for them. But my main way that I put together a closet after I edited it, oh my gosh, after I have edited it with a client is to have a section. So basically the bottoms are on the bottom, the tops are on the top, the layers are right next to the tops, and then the shoes are somewhere nearby. So you're creating an outfit almost like a circular system. Bottom, top, layer, shoe. Bottom, top, layer, shoe. And it's kind of all together. And it can be in a bigger space, just depending on how big your closet is. But it's kind of housed together. So all of the excess stuff, I was doing a closet edit the other day with a client in San Francisco. And she had her jackets next to her dresses, next to her shirts. And the bottoms were over here. And so everything is disjointed, right? So think about, how do you create an outfit? Like I said before, start with a bottom just because it's easier for me. But even if you started with a top, what are you going to grab next? Well, you got to put on a pair of bottoms. You can't go out pantless. So tops and bottoms should kind of be near each other. And then what do you need to put on after that? Well, a layering piece. So that should also be nearby. And I would say doing it by season, meaning I seasonalize. So my heavy jackets and things like that are, as we move into spring, exiting the rotation. And then my lighter weight blazers and things like that are coming in. And so it's all grabbable, so I can create an outfit fairly easily, all within reach. That's the goal, because that's creating the ease that you're desiring when it comes to getting ready. in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. I have no systems in place and that shit is so disjointed. I'm walking across the room to get to my tops and then a different place to get to my blazers and sweaters
exhausting.
there's no cohesion to how I've systemized it. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I like that.
Well, since I'm coming to Toronto and going to edit your closet now, then we're going to...
Oh, no, I'm going to hold you to this. I desperately need this. I feel like this is like a huge barrier I've come up against. So yes.
Oh,
done.
It will free up so much mental space too for you and feel so freeing to say like, oh my gosh, the ease of it all coming together. It just feels so much more meaningful. For sure.
Yeah. I would really love that. I think it would help my organization, which I struggle with. It would help my self-expression, which really matters to me, but that can also be a bit paralyzing when you're like over indexing on the importance of like self-expression, because it's like with art, I love art so much that it actually makes me completely blocked in how to choose it because it feels so important to get the right piece that I get nothing. And so with my personal style recently, I have felt like I so want to capture my essence in how I dress that I'm not making any moves and I'm just like frozen in a rut of like wearing the same.
And that is debilitating. That's why people they work with art dealers, or if you are decorating a space, you work with an interior designer. Sometimes you feel like you can make it 80% of the way, or you get paralyzed with so much indecision because kind of part of what we were talking about, the overconsumption. There's just so much available nowadays. It's like, where do we even fucking start? But I would say starting with the what do you want? And mood boarding, super helpful, super, super helpful.
Yes. And to like circle back to the overconsumption piece, like what is it costing us? Because I think it's easy to like cerebrally talk about like, oh, overconsumption is bad. But like, what is it costing, obviously the environment and also like our mental space, our mental capacity, our personal style? Like what is our budgets?
Okay. So one, it's costing us our lost, like we feel lost all the time, constantly, just because there's so much out there. And so it's costing us just our ability to be confident with decision-making and being able to even say, yes, I like this. And no, I don't like that. Like, we want to be able to make a clear and confident choice, but when we're bombarded by all the messaging, we cannot do that. So then we buy one in every color because it's under $20. I'm going to buy 13 of those. And we're not stopping to think about the implications that has on everything as a whole and just saying like, you know what? I don't need to know. I just want to buy. I just want to get it. Well, I'm asking people to start asking, well, where does that come from? And what happens with it after you're done with it? Where does it go? Start just looking around. You can see videos of, I actually had the honor of being able to go to Kenya last year for a maker. Her brand name is Abby Ali, and she makes bags. She has them made in small batches in Kenya. And so we went to see them making it. And just the act of me being able to see, here's where the fabric comes from. Here's who had a hand in making it. Here's what I'm doing with it afterwards. I'm never going to let go of that bag. That bag, I'm invested in that bag. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to disappoint the person who made that bag. And I know that I'm invested, right? And so what it's costing us is disconnection. We are disconnected from the story. We are disconnected from any pathway that is making us accountable for anything. I actually said, I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and I said, what if we had to dispose personally of everything that we ever got rid of from tomorrow forward? So you're responsible for, let's say we edit out our closets and we get rid of 17 bags of clothing. Well, where is that going to go? Because you can't send it to the dump. That's not allowed anymore. You can't donate it. That's not allowed anymore. You have to dispose of it of your own in your own backyard. Like, what? No, like, I don't want to do that. But if you had to do that, you would have to start thinking, I bet we would change the way we would think about how much we are consuming because we have to deal with the ramifications. we're creating a culture of ease. And so we are disconnecting ourselves from the future ramifications. And all I'm asking people, I am not asking you to stop shopping forever, but I'm saying, even for myself, shop less, buy fewer, be intentional. And I bet if you want to buy something that's on trend, you could probably find it secondhand or vintage somewhere, like in a cooler way, shape, or form. Try that first. And then if you've exhausted all those options and resources, buy a new piece. And once you buy it, wear the heck out of it for as long as you can. And the more you know your identity, the more you will be able to do that.
Yeah, 100%. We need that. And then we can be like in alignment and proud of how we're living rather than that like kind of low level, like insidious guilt of like, I am not being a responsible member of society by this level of consumption. I really love the self accountability piece that you mentioned, and that idea of like, what if we did have to properly dispose of everything that we buy? And it reminds me of one of my best friends who I've learned, she lives in California. I've learned so much from her. She is deeply adverse to overconsumption. I mean, if people leave food in her place, I'm like, when people leave food at my place, I'm like, nice, I get to try some food I wouldn't normally try. She's upset about it because if it's something she doesn't eat, she's like, this is now my responsibility to throw this food out or try to find it a new home. And now I'm taking on this burden. And so the same with clothes. She is like the most intentional person I've ever met, only buys secondhand or goes to clothing swaps, or, you know, everything is vintage, and everything in her house has been a find. It's been like a quest to find the right piece. Yeah. Because she takes such responsibility over, if I just get something and it doesn't work out, I have to properly find a new home for it. And so it's really important to her, and watching the accountability she has over how she consumes, and also over if something doesn't work out, how she always rehomes it properly and doesn't just throw shit out. I am amazed by it. And it's amazing. She knows where the eggs come from at the farm. You know, she has the egg guy. She applies it to every part of her life, and it's really inspired me to examine like the disconnection I have from the things that I am purchasing and consuming.
Yep. And I think that that's the point. Like, even if you don't fall on that part of the spectrum, even if, you know, it's like all that I think she or I might be asking that we do is take ownership over, you know, what you're doing, and take accountability for the steps that you're taking. And even if it's something as simple as, I'm not ready to edit my closet and I still do buy fast fashion, but I might try to buy one less thing or read one book to try to educate myself on how to be a better consumer. Great. Yeah. Like, that is great. Just the one little step is also going to be super helpful. And then there's also going to be people that just own, I am the way I am, and that's what I'm going to do. And then that's for you. That's fine too. But it's just taking ownership of whatever step, whatever place that you're in, owning up to it, accepting, you know, I guess all that comes with it, goods and bads, and just saying, that's, here I am, and this is what I want to do, and this is the why.
I think that's a message we could all do well to hear, and then figure out where we fall on that scale, and can we just do a small thing differently than what we're doing now?
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, because it's no guilt. It's just like the small steps are one step in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay, my last question for you is one that I always end every episode with, and that's, what is one thing you wish you had learned in school that would have better prepared you for adulthood?
How to communicate with each other.
Yes.
I mean, how we have different ways of communicating, you know, the different love languages or communication types, and just being able to figure out how to not take it so personally. Like, I take things personally. I'm trying to learn how not to do that if somebody responds in a certain way. But it's like, how can we accept different types of communication and just learn how to also communicate differently with people? Because communication, I think, is so important.
That's a really good one.
I just think about there's different emotional styles. There's different communication styles. And if we could be taught that, and how to respond and hold a conversation with somebody and just communicate on all different levels. Oh man. I mean, I don't mean to get political, but just,
I was just going to say, I think
watching what happened,
whatever the fuck is going on out
House
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at the way just that you're speaking to each other, and the way that we're speaking to a different president is so rude and so
It was so
bullying
upsetting.
and so
It was so upsetting.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh my God. I mean, I just like, wow, I'm feeling embarrassed. Like, this is just so uncomfortable and not a way you want to communicate. Because how I look at trying to teach my daughter, who's 6, how to communicate her needs and what she wants, the fact that my husband and I have different ways of communicating is like, whoa, right? But like, she doesn't respond well when I yell at her, and she doesn't respond well to being given ultimatums. And what she responds better to is being able to understand, like, okay, why is this coming up this way? What's happening? And how can we communicate that in a different way where I'm not yelling at you, you're not yelling at me? Because a lot, and I mean, a lot of adults could be taught, retaught how to communicate with one another. It would, I think, lead to a lot better treatment of how we treat one another.
Yeah. Individually and like globally, politically, on every level.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just think working together, we can get a lot more things done than trying to play the role of the bully.
Yeah. Well, okay. Next podcast, we're going to sit down and talk about how to not communicate like an asshole. So,
okay, great. Awesome. Yeah. I love it.
While we edit my wardrobe.
While we edit in Toronto, because I miss it.
Oh, I love it. This has been such a great conversation. I'm feeling like re-energized and re-excited to revisit, that's a lot of re's, but revisit and recycle some of my items and really like breathe life into them and figure out how to reflect who I am. So thank you for sharing your wisdom. This has been such a fun conversation. Please tell everybody where they can find you and where they can participate in your course and all the things that you do.
Yes. So everything is at Art in the Find. I believe there is an art to helping people find their style. And I have my course called Signature Style Method. And that is a quick 4-lesson course to get you re-energized about your style DNA, like what you need to know so you don't feel lost anymore when it comes to your personal style.